As a blacksmith, you can do things that other metalworking trades cannot. You can change the actual dimensions of a piece of material as part of your process of creating whatever it is you're trying to create. In our last video, we looked at drawing out, making a bar longer and skinnier. So if you've got a bar that's a little bit too heavy, a little bit too short, you can change its dimensions to create a starting size that suits your needs better. Today we're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to look at upsetting. That's where you take a bar and make it shorter and fatter in at least one dimension. Unlike drawing out, you're probably not going to take a 3-foot bar that's too skinny and try and shrink it down to a 2-foot bar that's fatter. That's pretty impractical to do, but if you just need a fat section on a bar where you're going to put a pierced hole, or you're doing a tenon and you want a nice big heel on that tenon, things like that is a good place to upset. This little hammerhead that I'm working on started off as a piece of round stock that was too long, but also too small in diameter. This was not going to make a good hammerhead. So I upset it down, made it fatter, forged it into a square, and then I started working on the hammerhead. Now this video is not about making a hammer, but that's a good example of why you might want to upset a bar. Now, as part of our Getting Back to Basics series, I'm working with simpler tools or tools that manufacturers have provided for us. So today I'll be working using the Atlas Knife and Tool Forge as a heat source, and we'll be working on the Texas Farrier Supply anvil. So without further ado, let's light the forge and do some upsetting. In its simplest terms, upsetting is nothing more than driving one end of the bar towards the other end of the bar, and wherever it's hottest, that's where it's going to get thicker. So controlled heat is really important. Working in a thin bar like you see here, this really wants to buckle and bend, and it's really not very efficient. You end up having to straighten it a lot. If you take the time to selectively cool the area that you don't want to upset, things will go a little bit better. You can also use precise heat from a torch, induction forge, something like that. But working in the gas forge, selective cooling is really my best option. You can see this doesn't get out of control quite as fast. You still have to go back and straighten it though. That's a regular part of upsetting. Pretty much every heat you're going to have to straighten the bar. You also notice that by hand holding this, every blow is moving my arm. I cannot resist the blow of the hammer. Both in my elbow, it just pushes the bar back, but also my grip isn't strong enough to keep the bar from sliding in my hand. If I back the bar up on something like the step of the anvil, this goes a lot smoother. And it still buckles, still bends, still have to go back and straighten it. But I'm not fighting the bar wanting to slide through my grip or just move my arm back and forth. So this really can help. And there's lots of other places. If your anvil doesn't have a step, this isn't the only place to do this. It's just one option. Another good option would be an upsetting block if your anvil has an upsetting block. After all, that's what it's there for. This anvil does not have an upsetting block, but the top of the stand is 3/4 inch plate. And for this lighter bar, that's perfectly sufficient to upset against, and it does provide some good resistance. The bar does dance around a little bit. Thinner bars are a lot harder to control in every way than a heavier bar would be in this circumstance. If you want to hold it more firmly and not worry about the bar dancing around, you can put it in the vise. This works very well, even though most bars will still slip in the vise. It's very rare to have a vise hold perfectly tight, but the vise can also be used for some of that straightening. Now doing this in the vise and knowing it's going to slip, sometimes you end up scarring up the works. So you need to keep that in mind as you're doing the work and kind of plan around how you're going to fix that. It's going to get forged a lot, it'll probably disappear, but it could create a cold shut if you're not careful or if it's really severe. So here I've managed to take this 3/8 or 10 millimeter bar and make it into more like a 1/2 inch or about 13 millimeters. This is a great opportunity to thank Blacksmith Supply for sponsoring today's video. Blacksmith Supply is a great source for just about anything you might need in blacksmithing. They have hammers and tongs. The hot mill gloves that I like to wear, these are a Carolina Kevlar hot mill glove, available from Blacksmith Supply. Both the regular block brush and the long bristle casting brush come from Blacksmith Supply. Recently, I even noticed that they're carrying these little silver pencils. It's a lead holder with a replaceable lead. So they have lots of stuff, and they have big stuff as well. Years ago, when Janet was working in the shop with me, we bought a 2-horn anvil from Old World Anvils. Old World Anvils has been taken over by Blacksmith Supply, so those anvils are now available through Blacksmith Supply. The fly press that I bought from Old World Anvils, now available through Blacksmith Supply. The Samac power hammer that I bought from a different distributor here in the US who's decided they weren't going to carry them anymore, transferred that inventory and the distributorship over to Blacksmith Supply. So if you're looking for a big self-contained power hammer, Blacksmith Supply might be able to hook you up. And that little Stihl 2x48 belt grinder, well, Alex Stihl quit selling stuff himself. Now Blacksmith Supply is the distributor for those in the US. You name it, they have just about everything you need to set up shop as a blacksmith. So if you're having trouble finding what you need, check out Blacksmith Supply. Now if the bar is short enough, you can stand it up on the anvil and drive it in. And again, a heavier bar behaves better. If the bar is heavy enough, you can just use the weight of the bar and skip the hammer altogether. And this is really one of the more efficient ways to upset. And it can be very gratifying to work this way. Just slamming the bar down against the anvil. Although sometimes the anvil is a little bit too tall for this to work well. In that case, if you got a big chunk of scrap steel or even a spare anvil, if you're lucky enough to have a spare anvil without a stand, put that on the floor and you can just slam the bar down into this. If I ever finish the floor in my shop, I will set a steel plate flush with the top of the floor just for this purpose. Did I mention that you pretty much have to go back and straighten the bar every heat? That still applies. Of course, if you want your upset in the middle of the bar, you need to cool the end of the bar and get that controlled heat where you want the upset. Doesn't do you any good to heat material where you don't want it to upset, because the hot spot is where it's going to swell. But upsetting ends of bars is often the more common place to do upsetting. This is a 1-inch bar, about 25 millimeters, and I added about 25% to its overall diameter. Much faster than doing a skinnier bar and for greater result. That's a quick overview of the fundamental skill of upsetting. Now, when would you use this in the real world? You really do use it quite often. Even things like a square corner, the corner's got more mass in it than the bar on either side does. So there's an upsetting process as you refine the corner of a square corner. Even in round bar, you're still doing an upset square corner to get that square outer edge. Perhaps you're working on a set of tongs and you're using material that's a little thin just to make your life easier in drawing out the reins and the jaw. But that leaves the boss just a little bit smaller than you'd like it. It's not very strong. Before you start working on the tongs, you can upset the bar where the boss is going to be forged later, and that will give you more mass in that area to work with. It is a little harder to upset the middle of the bar. A torch is really useful in that instance, so you can heat just that area that you want to upset. Induction forge works really good for that. But I realize most people don't have those, so you have to go back to the selective cooling and dip the end in the water and maybe pour water over the other side, just trying to leave that hot. You'll lose a lot of heat while you're cooling it, but eventually you'll get there. Personally, in that situation, I find it easier to just start with a heavier bar and draw it out. But if you're doing it all by hand with a lightweight hammer, that may be a whole lot of work in itself. Now, forge welding takes place at a really high heat. Material moves really easily, and it's easy to make things too thin as you refine the weld. For that reason, the scarf, or place where the weld comes together, is often upset at the heel of the scarf to give you some more mass to work with, helps hold heat better, and it's just easier to get a good weld that is the right size when you're done instead of ending up with a thin spot as you refine the weld. So upsetting for scarves is something you'll do a lot if you're doing forge welding. Something like a Hardy tool that has this wider base, you've got the shank goes down in the Hardy, the tool on top, but you need a big wide base to sit on the anvil face. That is often an upsetting process. You can draw all this out of a bigger bar, but a lot of people would rather do the upsetting. You can do this in the Hardy hole of the anvil if your anvil is stout enough. I think that's what breaks off the tail on some of the older anvils. But most new cast anvils are going to be heavier, and they're made out of better material, so they usually survive that. But still, that's an upsetting process in many cases. This little handle I've been working on is actually a drawing out and an upsetting process. I start with a flat bar, and as I draw the flat bar out in one dimension, it is upsetting in another dimension. So I actually end up with a thicker square section than what the flat was to start with. So sometimes you're really combining processes and you're upsetting in one dimension while you're drawing out in another dimension. Now all the holes in this gate sample were upset first to give a little bit more mass while I punched the holes, and then to open the holes up and refine them, that opening is upset, then drifted. It's often referred to as slit, upset, and drift, but it's very common to upset while you're doing some of these punched holes. So again, you're combining techniques. This great big heel tenon down here that has a big bulge in it to make this more stable at the base of the gate is upset first, and then the tenon is forged. So while upsetting can be kind of time consuming, kind of fiddly, you got to go back and straighten the bar a lot, it is a very practical skill, one you really need to become comfortable with, and it's going to help you be a better blacksmith in the long run. But for today, I want to thank Blacksmith Supply for sponsoring the video. Thank you each and every one of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop. Make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.